Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Somebody give me a 5x5 out there. Can you hear me okay? Make sure this microphone is working all right. We're still battling some technical stuff. So if you can hear me all right, somebody give me a 5x5. That'd be nice. Thank you very much. If you can hear the signal, all right. Shalom, shalom, shalom out there. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it very much. Well, thank you for joining us here for our weekly news update where we try to be informed without being overwhelmed. And I tell you, it's a real challenge in these last days because there's a lot of deception, a lot of things going on out there that are kind of sleight of hand, right? So we've got to be a people that are sober and vigilant in this hour. Thanks again, guys, for the 5x5. I appreciate that. Sometimes we're battling backstage trying to figure out what's going on, and we go live and it seems like it's working, and then you go live and something goes wonky. So it is definitely not a perfect science. So thank you so much for the support and the encouragement. Please do share the link and subscribe if you have not. And if you were previously subscribed, and maybe take a look and go, wait a minute, well, how did I get unsubscribed? Or how come I'm not getting notifications? Well, you have to hit that bell for notifications, and you got to check it often because for whatever reasons that I don't understand, they sort of unsubscribe people at will. So pay attention to that, not only for our channel, but other channels as well. And we want to remind you, of course, that we have this great website at remnantwatch.com. That's remnantwatch.com. And where we list all the stories that we cover each week. And again, we do these weekly so that we can keep ourselves in pace. And we always have this banner at the top that'll bring you to the latest update. Okay. And of course, we have the survival guides there for those that are, listen, if you haven't downloaded those yet, you probably want to. And of course, a handy search bar for previous stories that we've covered. And many times we're going back to take a look at trends, take a look at how often something has occurred. Many times we're seeing a story, what looks like the same story again. And we go back and sure enough, we see similar trends going on. So that really helps us a lot in looking at patterns and understanding how things unfold in the world, on the world scene, right, guys? So, you know, you guys are a pretty sharp group. You're not the people that get too rattled by everything you hear. And you're able to analyze or review things from the biblical perspective. And that's what we want to do here on this channel. We want to take the time to look at these things together so that we can look at them through the lens of what the scripture tells us to look for. And so we're going to examine a couple of things here today that I think will be helpful. And so I pray you are all encouraged and so thankful for all of you who continue to stand together with your brothers and sisters in Messiah. It is always such a wonderful barakah to see that and to see you joining together to unite in one accord. By the way, personal note, those of you who've been trying to get a hold of me or sending me notes or what have you, I have been literally out of commission communication-wise for probably a couple, 3 weeks now. So if you are back there going, hey, how come you haven't reached back to me? Please be patient with me. It has been that busy. We are working diligently on some projects behind the scenes that are big projects, but they are taking a lot of my mental focus. And so if I missed you, please know that I love you and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I am very much working toward that end. So just know that I'm not forgetting that. So I want to say that because sometimes people can start thinking that, you know, hey, he's ignoring me. No, I'm just prioritizing and trying to get everything done that I have to. And on that note, let's get into the news. And tonight's top story, the war in the Middle East continues, at least the war of words, because we have Trump warning that the oil infrastructure of Iran may explode in the next 3 days. And I want to tell you that this is getting increasingly more interesting as we go, because there are those who are tremendously benefiting from the increase in the price of oil. And I do recall that there were certain groups that took control of oil tankers. So that became a boon, right? They got a bunch of new income that came in as a result of that. So we've got to kind of keep an eye on who benefits. Always follow the money, right, guys? Always follow the money. So Trump warns Iran's oil infrastructure may explode in the next 3 days. That ought to do some things to the market, right? And he suggests a U.S. blockade on Iran could cause the Islamic Republic's oil infrastructure to explode imminently. Iran's oil infrastructure could explode sometime in the next 3 days as a result of the American blockade on the Islamic Republic, President Donald Trump warned over the weekend. Speaking with Fox News on Sunday, the president said that without the ability to export oil, Iran's storage infrastructure will be overwhelmed within a matter of days, culminating in explosions. When you have, lines of vast amount of oil pouring through your system, if for any reason that line is closed because you can't continue to put it into containers or ships, which has happened to them, they have no ships because of the blockade. What happens is that the line explodes from within, both mechanically and in the earth. And so what they're essentially doing is attacking the oil infrastructure in multiple ways. Now, again, the Chris Tucker mechanisms for crime stopping, follow the rich white dude, right? No, just kidding. But, in all seriousness, money is the issue here. And so, you've got a president over here who literally represents the wealthy. I mean, come on. And what is he essentially promoting? Well, that he's going to decimate the oil systems in the oil business over here at the same time, blatantly and unapologetically telling y'all to come on over and gas up in the Gulf of America. You can't make this up. It is a worldwide shakedown right in front of everybody, and no one wants to call it out for what it is. It's a shakedown. And it is incredible that it's going on right in front of us. So you can understand why there's a lot of forces that would be quite upset about that. Now, if you're on the American side, you're thinking, wow, this is great. We're going to make a ton of money. America's going to do great. The status quo will not stay this way. So this is one side of probably what will continue to be a conflict that will unfold. I doubt very seriously this will end anytime soon. Even if they come to tables and negotiate, there's going to be so much hostile blood and so much anger and hostility bent and piled up in there that there's no way it doesn't come out. And so I've been watching Humanity for a while, and this is likely to become very problematic as we go forward. So the Middle East certainly is not going to calm down anytime soon. There are those who are now putting forth the suggestion that Israel does not have legitimacy and that it is not a legitimate nation and should not exist among the family of nations because of the actions of the Israeli government. I did note that, although it's not among our stories, that the Israeli president, not the prime minister, the president of Israel, did not elect to pardon Netanyahu. So he will stand trial for corruption charges. Now, back to the Strait of Hormuz. According to the Pentagon, clearing the Strait of Hormuz of mines could take 6 months. The Pentagon assessment shared in a classified briefing for lawmakers suggests gasoline and oil prices could remain elevated through the midterm elections. So it could take 6 months to fully clear the Strait of Hormuz of mines deployed by the Iranian military, and any such operation is unlikely to be carried out until the U.S. war with Iran ends. And the Pentagon has informed Congress an assessment that means the conflict's economic impact could extend late into this year or beyond. This is horrible news, not only for the United States, but for the world, because the ripple effect will extend to world economies. So this decision to attack Iran, to leave negotiations, to abandon the table that you're now trying to get back to, so to leave and shoot bombs, hoping that would improve your negotiating position, has not panned out. On the one hand, you've got the utter destruction of Iranian infrastructure. So there's certainly been damage to Iran. But Iran has also done irreparable damage to U.S. military bases throughout the region. So its influence and its ability to execute other operations has now been removed. So Iran, for its sake, has accomplished at least some of its objectives in this conflict. I'm struggling to see how any others have accomplished theirs. And so it doesn't look good as we go forward. U.S.-Iran ceasefire deal hangs in the balance as Israel and Lebanon is slating for rare Washington talks. And this, of course, coming out last week. Iran has reportedly attacked and seized ships in the Straits of Hormuz as the U.S. continues its blockade against Iranian ports, despite President Trump's extending the ceasefire. Israel and Lebanon, meanwhile, will hold talks in Washington, D.C. Thursday as their ceasefire deal is set to expire. Well, it expired yesterday. And so they essentially are trying to come up with something that works. But my concern is that any agreement that they make, it looks like they keep making agreements to buy time or reposition, not to actually make peace. This is going to continue to backfire, folks. And the Iranians are calling it out, and they're not alone. So you have to, if you're going to go into peace negotiations, it is sort of expected that you're going to do so, at least in the appearance of good faith, if nothing else. And so the fact that you've got political leaders and government leaders doing what they're doing at this point is egregious, honestly, folks. It's really difficult to explain how you can be effectively going to war and at the same time being unwilling to be essentially operating in good faith as you go forward. So we are looking at some very unprecedented times, and we are looking at them through the lens of the time period where many have forsaken and abandoned the things of the kingdom. In response to the potential threats that we're going to be facing here in the homeland of the United States of America, we're now looking at U.S. Army deploying the first Golden Dome that is now, oh, this is not wanting to work. Come on, guy. There we go. I don't know what that delay was about, but there it is. The U.S. is deploying the first Golden Dome, ALPS surveillance system to track drones over U.S. territory. And so this is now as a result of what we saw last year. Remember, we were talking about those drones that no one knew where they were coming from and what they were about. And so the U.S. Army has deployed its first Golden Dome sensor on American soil, making a shift from concept to real-world homeland defense against drones and low-flying threats. The Army Long-Range Persistence Surveillance, ALPS, strengthens early warning and tracking inside U.S. territory, directly improving the ability to detect and respond to cruise missiles and unmanned systems that can evade traditional radar. So, are things about to get dicey here in the United States on the homeland, if you will? I think it's really naive to think that you can bring war everywhere else on earth and it never comes home to you. So I would not suggest that we are naive, nor that we would be a kind of people that would look the other way and think, no way, it could never happen. Reality is that you can't go lobbing bombs forever and never expect any to come back. So what you sow, you will reap. We should expect it. And so again, it is wisdom, and I think great wisdom, that the country, the United States and other countries are starting to look at this type of defense. However, what we found is these dome systems don't work so good. So Israel they were touting their Iron Dome. Remember that? I mean, for how long were they talking about the Iron Dome? We want to go to Iran, war with Iran because they have the Iron Dome, and it didn't matter. Now Iran's literally firing straight through, unimpeded, because that so-called Iron Dome turns out had iron holes as well. All right, so we're seeing some serious pushback in the world, and I think that the United States is finding out that its military supremacy is not what it used to be, or at least what it thought it was. And so we're finding that out in real time with real video and real circumstances as we walk. Speaking quickly about the United States economy, as a result of these decisions that have been made, Goldman Sachs is saying the U.S. could lose 10,000 jobs a month this year as the oil shock ripples through the U.S. economy. The effects, according to this report, of higher oil prices could slash 10,000 jobs a month. And the bank said it's expected the unemployment rate to rise to 4.6%. And again, this is what they'll admit. So I would add up probably 10 points to that of underemployed or people that have opted out. Higher oil prices can raise inflation and hurt consumer spending, which could worsen the hiring slowdown. The oil price shock could cost the U.S. economy thousands of jobs a month, according to a new analysis from Goldman Sachs. So we're not getting out of this awful easy. And again, these repercussions will be felt for some time. We're now seeing that it may go into the fall and maybe beyond as we go. Speaking of it coming home to roost, how many of you heard that, of course, just this last week, President Trump flees from the stage as gunshots were fired at the White House Correspondents' Dinner as security situation unfolds in D.C. Now, I do believe this is a giant distraction. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. The U.S. president was swept off stage as chaos erupted at the White House Correspondents' Association dinner. As more and more information comes out and as things sort of unfold, we're watching to see how this unfolds, but it keeps looking to me like we are being treated to one staged event after another. And President Trump was rushed off to the White House Association dinner after shots were fired, and the event erupted into chaos and security swept the entire top table, including Trump, Melania, and heavily pregnant Caroline Leavitt, who, by the way, happened to mention in an interview just before this event that when President Trump speaks, there will be shots fired. Freudian slip? Just a turn of phrase or a Freudian slip? We don't know. It's looking suspicious. Now, this is our world, folks, and we're starting to realize a lot of things are much more theatrical than we thought. So and maybe there were those in either industry or movies or whatever that were trying to warn us all about some of the nonsense that we're seeing. And so the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting suspect, Cole Allen, was targeting Trump officials in an attack in the ballroom, according to this. And that's what the officials were saying. Of course, this New York Post report is, of course, very right wing. But the gunman was charged in a security checkpoint, opened fire outside the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Gunman was targeting Trump officials Saturday night, according to them. And according to them, he had a manifesto. How come these guys always have a manifesto? Just saying. Cole Thomas Allen always have 3 names, by the way. That was another one for conspiracy theory, right? Always have 3 names. Told police he was going after administration officials at the press gala inside the Washington Hilton Hotel in Washington, D.C., sources told the Post. Acting Attorney General Tom Blanche confirmed the alleged motive to NBC News. Of course, then we find out, we see photographs of this guy in front of a Mossad symbol, right? So we don't know what we're looking at here, right? We could be looking at a complete fake out operation. We're not sure, but I'll let the hive of examiners, all of the newsies out there, they'll eat it up and give it a week and then come back and look at the story again. Just like Charlie Kirk. How many of you had an initial opinion about it? And then after about a week or 2 or 3 of review, all of a sudden you're going, wait a minute, I got new questions, right? Well, that's what happens as we let time go by and a little more review. Is the sleuths, those that want to find the minor anomalies will do their job. And then we will see what we will see. But I do think that we've got some very, very suspicious activity here. And this, unfortunately, does not bode well for the days to come. Because, again, it doesn't matter whether or not you figured it out. The fact that they thought they could do it, if it turns out that it was, in fact, just a bit of a ruse, well, what does that say about you? What does that say about their respect for you? Staying on the domestic front for a little bit longer, folks, because we've got a few things to talk about right here stateside, and you need to keep them in mind. One of the things that we're working on behind the scenes is dealing with this very issue, but dealing with it from a root level as opposed to dealing with it with protests and attempts to shut it down. And that's these data centers. And these data centers are humongous. This hyperscale data center project is going up in Utah. It's expected to generate and consume more power than the entire state. Did you hear me? A data center, okay, is expected to consume more power than the entire state of Utah. And it nears final approval. The Box Elder County Commission is scheduled to vote Monday on the deal with Mr. Wonderful star Kevin O'Leary, I guess, apparently. So they're celebrating this. It's a big deal. But It's going to create 2,000 high-paying jobs at what cost? Again, the cost of the same amount of power it takes to run the entire state. Can you believe this? And it is massively, massively unnecessary, folks. And our technology, what we're working on right now behind the scenes, makes that point. What we can accomplish with one GPU takes them 200. Go ahead and process that. What we can do with one takes them 200. I don't know. That's why we've been working the way we have, because this is not a joke. It threatens a lot more than you realize. The ripple effect of these decisions on communities, on infrastructure, is massive, 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 massive. Not to mention the fact that this now massively expands certain capabilities that even lawmakers are concerned about. Look at this, guys. Even the lawmakers, according to NBC News, are starting to go, hey, whoa. Pump the brakes there, Bubba. Look at that. Even AI, even the lawmakers. And this is exactly what happened when other things, big things occurred, like the Federal Reserve or other big decisions. Congress might have been alerted and might have even been concerned, but because the decision was bigger than any one group, bigger than one congressional, Congress, if you will, they just roll on by. AI is making it very easy for the government to spy on you. And some lawmakers are worried AI's increasing ability to sift through data and track Americans' locations, and some lawmakers reconsidering parts of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. So they're very much concerned about that. The long-running fight to rein in the government's power to search Americans' phones, calls, emails, and text messages without a warrant has gained new urgency on Capitol Hill over concerns that AI will supercharge state surveillance. So how many know that enemy of the state, boy, that's becoming a real thing? Isn't that something? Privacy advocates warn that if the law enabling warrantless monitoring of Americans is not meaningfully reformed, many citizens could be subject to increasingly invasive AI-powered analysis of communications swept up by foreign intelligence programs, as well as commercially available locations and behavioral data. Imagine, instead of doing a query with one person, that you turned AI loose on these databases, Rep. Thomas Massey said Thursday at a press conference announcing the new bill to close data collection loopholes. There's virtually nothing the government can't know about you. And frankly, we should all be up in arms about this. There's a reason why there was a Bill of Rights. There's a reason why it was intended by the founders of the United States of America to limit government power when it comes to surveillance, especially when it comes to surveilling its own citizens. Because again, when you have citizens that have the right, for example, to protest, and you can get in front of that, then you can quench any pushback against government policies and so forth. You no longer have a democracy. You no longer have a republic. You have only the mirage of one. So it was very wise of the founding fathers of the United States to consider these matters, but it is wiser still for every generation to remember it is our responsibility to enforce these things, to ensure that there are no overreaches that make repugnant the Constitution of the United States. In fact, any law that attempts to do so is on its face null and void. So those of you that are watching this saga unfold need to be continually improving your understanding of your rights. By the way, the ripple effect of this war continues to hit other areas as well. Don't take this stuff lightly. Lufthansa is cutting 20,000 flights to save fuel as Iran war continues to fall out. The fallout continues to spread, rather. The global jet fuel prices have jumped more than 70% since the start of the war, pressuring airlines in Europe and the largest consumers of jet fuel ship through the Straits of Hormuz. So this is dramatically and disproportionately affecting the airline industry. So we're going to see more news to that effect. And why is that important? Well, you might want to move. You might want to go some places you might want to get out of. And why is that? Well, because things are shaking. I said things are shaking. Okay. And things are shaking in places that we don't normally see shaking. This is what makes this newsworthy, not the size, but the location of this particular event. Magnitude 4.0 earthquake. Earthquakes in diverse places, according to the scripture, Matthew chapter 24. Magnitude 4.0 earthquake rattles the Mid-South. Okay, so we started seeing some events going on here in a line, Memphis, Tennessee. An earthquake rumbled through Mid-South on Thursday afternoon. The University of Memphis Center of Earthquake Research and Information reported a magnitude 3.9 that hit at 12:59 p.m. near Cooter, Missouri. And that's 80 miles due north of Memphis, just above the Arkansas state line. All right, so what are we saying? We're seeing some rumbling going on in the center part of the United States. And this is not the only report. There were other reports of other earthquake activity that was also going on throughout the United States. In fact, there was a swarm, if I remember correctly, here it is right here. An earthquake swarm sparks panic as shockwaves are felt from Nevada to California. So there's definitely some shaking going on underneath the United States of America. Maybe they're running extra rail lines under there. I don't know. Maybe there's stuff going on under there, folks. Who knows? Residents across Nevada and parts of California were startled on Wednesday after a series of earthquakes sent shockwaves across hundreds of miles, and at least 4 notable tremors were detected near Carson City, Nevada, ranging from 2.6 to 4.8. And again, not the strength, but the locations of the swarms that we're kind of paying attention to, folks. And see, this is one of the things that we have to pay attention, because he said earthquakes in diverse places, so places that maybe you don't expect to see an earthquake going on. And I got to tell you, I got to wonder, Mashiach was, I believe, warning us about the 2 levels of existence on the earth, and that there isn't a subterranean existence. We don't know a lot about it. We just know it's there. We know that there is a subterranean existence. We don't know the vastness of it, but we know that there is no way for us to know unless you were introduced to it or somehow allowed to tour it. You would not know how vast it is, nor would you know who is living in it, nor would you know the number of people that are involved in that, right? So is it possible that some of those that have been disappeared on the surface ended up somewhere else? We don't know. That's the whole point of it. But I believe Mashiach was warning us in many ways about the world that we would suddenly discover as we walked. And I believe these earthquakes and tremors are not all like natural, in the sense that there may be other reasons why we're feeling earthquakes and tremors going on under our feet. So something to consider, right? As we go, but it is real. And that's one of the reasons why where you are location wise, what the ground's like, these things all matter, at least as far as I'm concerned, they do. And so be aware. And this, again, is affecting whole states. We just saw this report. Ooh, I don't know if I'll be able to show it to you. Again, these guys at their paywalls, not always able to put it. Let's see if we can flash up there. California's oil supply. Here, we'll do it again. Get out of my way. So we just need the headline. Here we go. Ready? California's oil and jet fuel supply is getting slammed by a perfect storm. And that's it. That's all I can show you, because now they want to get paid their dollar. And by the way, guys, if you're wondering why I don't just do it, is because it doesn't matter that we sign in. We still don't have the right to publish their stuff once they put it behind a paywall. So all we can do is show you what they're willing to show you. If they're not willing to show it to the public, we can't show it to you either. So you have to go pay for that paywall. But nevertheless, you can understand that California's oil is also part of the issue now. And I do believe that other states are going to start to feel it as well, not just California, because they all deal with their own reserves as well as the national reserve, right? So they all deal with their own internal battles and situations, and they're all going to be affected by supply. As a matter of fact, this report coming out of Zero Hedge is letting us know UBS warns a drought shock unfolding across the breadbasket of the United States. It's not just sounding an alarm about severe drought conditions hitting America's breadbasket as spring planting ramps up, warning about the second and third order effects that could push food prices higher later this year. Their analysts is warning about more things. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Palmer Drought Severity Index hit its highest level for March since records started in 1895. Let me go ahead and read that again. The National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration Palmer Drought Severity Index hit its highest level for March since records started in 1895. And March was the third driest month recorded, regardless of the time of year, behind only the famed 1930s Dust Bowl, July and August 1934. Okay, so we're seeing serious effects going on in North America. The primary effect of drought continues on farmland as a direct hit to the production, reducing soil moisture, weaker germination, lower yields, and poorer crop quality, reduced pasture and forage, and greater stress on the nation's cattle herd already seen with soaring beef prices. So, folks, this isn't going away. We're going to continue to see challenges in this, and this is why we need to be praying, by the way, for rain for those areas that are feeding the Goshen inhabitants, right? We've got to do that, but this is becoming a challenge, folks. Look at this. Corpus Christi is now announcing their plans to declare a water emergency. What does that mean? Right? This is a great question. It's right out in the public. They're not even hiding it. They're like, well, what does this mean? And they're declaring a water emergency. No modern American city has ever run out of water, but chances are rising that Corpus Christi could be the first. Absent a biblical rainfall event, its reservoirs are on track to completely dry up by next year. Did you hear that? Absent a biblical rainfall event. They just literally said those words out loud. Absent a biblical rainfall event. That raising baffling questions for the future of Texas's 8th largest city and one of the nation's most petrochemical hubs. We have no precedent to follow. There's no manual. There's no video. They overbuilt in an area where they didn't have enough water to sustain the number of people, and they did a very foolish thing. They overbuilt that area, and now they need the water to sustain it. And they're going to have to cut everybody's water in order to sustain it at all, if they can even survive this. So this is becoming a new level of challenge, and water is becoming a big deal. There was another report that came out that 9,000 residents of Northeast Flagstaff here in Arizona are under a boil water advisory because there's some impact going on there. Officials in Coconino County issued a boil water advisory to residents at Donnelly Park Wednesday. It comes after Arizona Public Service turned off power to nearly 6,000 customers because of high wildfire danger this week. So when they do that, they interfere with the flow, and guess what? You get contaminants in that water that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten because it's now sitting in the pipe versus flowing through the pipe. I know that's disgusting, folks. You don't want to know. You do not want to know. Okay, I'm just saying. You don't want to know. So this is really starting to get very, very interesting here in the United States. And again, drought is a serious concern for the nation. Another thing concerning us is this report. This really was an odd report. It's a good thing we have that dome going up, right? Because 15 agricultural spray drones were reportedly stolen from a New Jersey facility. So if we in the next coming days or weeks see a report of drones spraying, well, we'll know where they came from. Look at this. An alarm has erupted after 15 powerful agricultural spray drones were stolen in a suspected coordinated heist in New Jersey last month. A report from the high side claimed the FBI is investigating the theft amid fears the machines could be used to disperse dangerous materials. Did y'all know that there were drones doing agricultural spraying? Did you guys know that? I did not know that. I knew they did planes. I didn't know they did drones. Did you know they were using drones? Makes sense they would use drones. Just didn't know it. Didn't think about it. And now I'm sitting here going, oh boy. And they got so many of them that 15 of them went missing, and they're probably still going to keep going with their program. Wow. Okay, so that makes me ask new questions. I don't know about the rest of you, but I now want to know how long they've been using drones to spray, where they spray, how they spray, right? Because drones can go where planes can't. Yeah, drones can go where planes cannot go. So this is trippy, to say the least. Okay, switching gears real quick, because something is really changing, and this definitely is a reflection of Earth itself, reflecting the times that we're in. Dangerous, severe weather outbreaks are happening right now, and I want to tell you guys what we began to watch is incredible. Look at this. Severe outbreaks, including risks of strong long-track tornadoes on Monday night. That's tonight. A dangerous severe weather outbreak peaks into Monday evening with strong tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds across the Midwest, shifting southeast into Tuesday before drenching storms reach the east midweek. So we're looking at some serious threats. The threat includes the potential for strong tornadoes that could remain on the ground for miles across Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, and Indiana. And so this is a serious threat. And folks, I want to point something out here that we began to look at. And my brother David and I were looking at this earlier this afternoon because it seemed to us very interesting that we saw this serious uptick. And So far, normally a normal year, you have 1,000 tornadoes in the United States, just so you know. That's a normal year. So at the end of June, you would expect to be at about 500. We're already over 500 now. We're already over 500 tornadoes right now, and we still have 2 more months of counting. So this is probably going to be a record month for tornadoes. The book of Haggai tells us that he sends the whirlwind because of idolatry. So this is very interesting going on right in front of us. He is performing his word. Now, according to reports that we were able to ascertain from the USGS and from the weather systems where they have tracking of tornadoes, we found out that since the celebration of, quote, Easter, which was 4 months into the year, at that point there were 250 tornadoes. From Easter on to the present day, there's been another 250. So that's how fast it accelerated from that point, just to give you a perspective. And I thought that was quite interesting and quite telling. Love your thoughts on that. But yes, I thought, let's take a look at Easter week. So I looked at it and I said, okay, that sort of kicked off a change. Let's look beyond that. And then this entire month since then has been Tornado City. So this report is just the latest of the damage that is now on the ground, folks. And this is something that, again, is in the scripture. We are warned about idolatry. And so do we have some new questions to ask? I think we do as a nation. It would be wise to start asking them. And along with this outbreak of earthquakes, tornadoes, so we just saw increased tornado activity, and we're seeing increased earthquakes activity. It's definitely seeing them in places we never saw them before. We're seeing other effects as well. The drought effect, right? So that's massive. We got places where they're not able to grow anything because there's no water, there's no rain. So this is a big deal. But look at this. Now scientists are talking about this new challenge. And I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. I'm mentioning it again. Global temps could hit record highs amid apocalyptic. So here we got, if we don't have a biblical event, we don't have enough water. Here we have apocalyptic in the headlines, folks. So you need there's a super El Nino. Scientists are predicting a super El Nino. And you can see what it does. It brings a jet stream, a certain kind of jet stream across the country. And the little boy is what it's called. El Nino isn't playing around. Scientists predict that we could be on track for a super El Nino, a meteorological phenomenon that could send temperatures soaring to record heights next year, potentially causing droughts, flooding, and other extreme weather events. So we're walking into a time period where we're going to have extreme weather events, extreme drought. And on top of that, we have earthquakes that we didn't even have before. We now have them everywhere. And you have the tornadoes as well. So you've got all this coming together at the same time. This El Nino is going to fuel the tornado activity. It's going to fuel storm activity. So we are definitely seeing a change in Earth's geoclimate. And I don't believe it's global warming. I believe it is judgment. I believe there's a whole lot of shaking going on. Amen. And I believe that that's what we're seeing right now. We're going to continue to see more and more of that very same thing as we go. I'm going to move along here, folks, because we're running out of time. There was a shooting in Chicago, leaves an officer dead, another one fighting for his life. The reason why I'm pointing this out, folks, is because we continue to see a violent trend in our nation as more and more, and even authorities are no longer safe. And so it is becoming more and more violent in our society, and you just need to be aware of that. So again, this American experiment seems to be falling apart to some degree at the seams. We also have this report coming out of Oklahoma. Oklahoma got slammed. I tell you, Oklahoma has been one tough place to hang out. Hazardous chemicals detected in Oklahoma air. First known case in North America. Scientists say a medium chain chlorinated paraffins were detected in air samples from north central Oklahoma through current levels that do not pose an immediate health threat. Of course not. They're going to tell you about it because it's no big deal, of course. course, it's no big deal. Just like the gas leak out in California was no big deal years ago, that they still haven't closed it, but it's no big deal. Potential hazardous chemicals compound has been picked up in Oklahoma's air, marking the first time medium chain chlorinated paraffins have been detected in North America. University of Colorado Boulder researchers conducting atmospheric fieldwork in an agricultural region of Oklahoma have identified the first ever airborne measurements of medium chain chlorinated paraffins in the Western Hemisphere. And the key takeaways where scientists found the chemicals are for the first time. They're a man-made byproduct tied to industrial materials and manufacturing process. And they're not an immediate health concern, but why are you looking for them then? They're looking for them because they are a health concern. They're a cancer-causing health concern, in my opinion. So I'm certain that it's going to be something we're going to want to know about. And Oklahoma just had an earthquake we just reported, and they also had a devastating tornado that went right through Oklahoma. So Oklahoma is not looking great lately. I pray for those in Oklahoma. And the cancer rates are going skyrocketing. Rectal cancer death rates are rapidly increasing among millennials, and it's a medical crisis, according to this report. By 2035, rectal cancer death rates could exceed deaths from colon cancer, new research suggests. So, deaths from rectal cancer are rising rapidly among younger adults, an alarming trend that is confounding scientists trying to understand why millennials are so hard hit. And I'm certain that the chemicals in the food have nothing to do with it. The rate of rectal cancer seems to be increasing more than 2 to 3 times compared to colon cancer, said Mithil Menon-Pathiel, leader of the new study. If the new trend continues, rectal cancer deaths will exceed the number of colon cancer deaths, or the nation's number one cause of cancer death in people age 50, under age 50 by 2035. So major things going on. Again, health is a big deal. And if you suspect that you have a problem with cancer or have had a cancer diagnosis, may I suggest that before you do any other treatment, that you at least, at very minimum, remove every parasite from not only in your body, but around you for 15 feet. Just saying. Get rid of them. Start there and then check again. Because I believe it is, we're finding out more and more about what is, in fact, ailing us all. It's not just America that is, by the way, getting a supply shock, just so you know. It is also about to hit Asia. And that is also going to change the way we all function, because a lot of our supply comes from Asia. So what hits them will ripple to us. Asia's spiraling supply shock is coming for America. Gas stations are rationing fuel. Hospitals are running out of medical supplies. People are hoarding plastic bags, and factories face packaging shortages. And that's all happening in Asia right now. That could come and become a problem for the United States. About half the stuff Americans buy comes from Asia. And if Asian factories are dealing with lack of supplies, should Americans expect shortages too? Yeah, possibly. Oh, not yet. No, not to worry. But they always downplay the story until it's on top of you. You ever notice that? So be wise and see trouble coming far off. This is not an easy thing to resolve. This is probably going to come and bite us all, not only because of the threat from the war effect, but also the cooling relationships with the West that are happening in Asia. So remember, they did a $1 trillion surplus without America. So they found out that they downgraded our importance, the Western importance, dramatically in this last year. They proved through their economic model that they could find other customers and not have to worry about that. Meanwhile, back in the West, they're continuing to play games. We reported about this about 7 years ago. We reported about smart dust, and many of you may remember that. And now they've patented what they described as smart dust for biometric payment verification. So how do you feel about the future of biometric payment verification used for humans on banking purposes? Well, there's now discussion that there's possibly an executive order that's going to accelerate this very thing, which of course has beast written all over it, right? So basically this smart dust I'm not going to read into the technical parts of it, but essentially helps transmit data to complete transactions. What could go wrong? Well, because it's dust, gets everywhere. It's electronic dust. They're turning you into cyborgs, whether you like it or not. whether you like it or not, because they can change your status. It's no different than spraying Roundup or spraying patent protected chemicals on land. And then when it sprays over to another land or another place or GMO seed, they can then claim the other land. So there's a lot of reasons why they want overspray. A lot of reasons for it. And that's why they want shedding and things like that, folks. So be wise out there. Shifting gears very quickly before we wrap up for today. I thought this was a very interesting story. And again, those of you that followed the discoveries of Ron Wyatt won't find any of this surprising, but the biblical discovery in Egypt, a statue linked to the story of Moses, is found near the Red Sea. Archaeologists have uncovered part of an ancient statue of a pharaoh in Egypt, who, according to many scholars, is the king mentioned in the biblical story of Moshe. The fragment is thought to depict Ramses II, one of the ancient Egypt's most powerful rulers, and a figure many historians associate with the pharaoh described in the book of Exodus. According to the Bible, Moses confronted a pharaoh who refused to free the Israelites from slavery, setting off the events described in the Exodus narrative. Parts of the large statue, including its legs and base, were discovered at Tel Faraoun in Egypt's eastern Nile Delta, just northwest of the Red Sea, during ongoing excavations led by the country's Supreme Council of Antiquities. And of course, the discoveries of Ron Wyatt and subsequent confirmations that have been done by other fact-seeking archaeologists and scientists and reviewers have drawn more and more attention to this part of the world, because it, of course, served to confirm the biblical narrative. So again, these are the kinds of things that we look for, because they not only prove the Bible to be true, but they also tell us that not only is it true back there, but it's also true as we walk. This is very important, because when we see proof of the scripture having been behind us, it can also inform how we walk going forward. It's very, very important for all of us in this hour. As far as I'm concerned, anyway, I think it's very, very important. And speaking of, again, Ron Wyatt and interesting discoveries, he also made a big deal about the Noah's Ark discovery. How many of you heard about that? Yes, that was actually found 30 years ago or more. And but of course, it's not something that's excavated. So we have to continue to do work on it. Noah's Ark mystery deepens as researchers blow lid on strange rock formations in Turkey. And so this has been an area of, again, great interest as researchers bombshell new findings about strange rock formations in Turkey could prove that Noah's Ark was real, according to reports. So this has been revisited multiple times, but this is the very same location that our brother Ron Wyatt did discover. Andrew Jones, a researcher on NOAA Systems, told GB News that exciting new findings about the rock formations first discovered in 1959 on Turkey's Mount Ararat could prove the boat from the book of Exodus once existed. And so again, there's a photograph of the location of the remains of the boat, if you will. And there were extensive soundings and things done to prove that this is not a natural rock formation, but in fact, a man-made structure that has been since buried in what appears to be some type of mud flood. Now, do we have evidence of other mud floods going on around? I think we do, right? So very, very interesting time indeed. How many of you find some of this fascinating? I know I do. I think it's a fascinating time that we live in. We have the opportunity, with the backdrop of all of these events, to share the good news, the gospel of the kingdom, to encourage people to find their way to Messiah, right? To get before him, to repent of their sin, and to receive eternal life. Well, our job, of course, is to use every one of these opportunities to shine our light. And so when you're seeing these things going on, sure, you're going to prepare, you're going to get wise, you're going to get ahead of it, but don't forget to have conversations. Don't forget to encourage. Don't forget to speak life over those that are struggling. There are many, many people who do not have the fellowship, the love, the friendships that you enjoy as the remnant. So invite them in. Invite them to join and be part of family that cares one for another. Don't join the groups that are beating each other up. Don't participate in these things. We understand they're there. We know they're there. We know that there's many groups where you go and join, and my goodness, if you don't do things a certain way, they beat you up. Don't participate in those things. Instead, remember that we are to be gracious one to another, to walk in love, and to minister the words of life while we have opportunity. Well, that's it for tonight. I pray this broadcast has been a barakah to you wherever you are. We're certainly grateful for every one of you. Again, that share, that like, and subscribe. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Again, I pray this has been a blessing to you wherever you are. Good night.